But that's not what's exciting. That's a prelude of things to come. What's exciting is what we're releasing right now, which is Informatica's new Cloud B2B Gateway. Everything, in our opinion, is going to the cloud. That's the trend we're seeing in the marketplace. And Informatica is no different. So we're re-engineering our solution to be both on-prem or deployed in the cloud. And when deployed in the cloud, they're on demand as a subscription type model. And that's what's exciting is can I do EDI mapping and set up my trading partner connections in the cloud with an on-demand subscription model. So if you remember this previous diagram where we showed a partner on one side and we're on the other side doing EDI and XML, the way it works now is in the cloud, you can manage your trading partner. You can do the trading partner setup yourself. You can maintain the connectivity or create a new connection yourself. It could be FTP, SFTP, AS2 connection. You can do any tracking and monitoring of the transformation as it's happening. And we have out-of-the-box EDI mappings that make it real easy to be able to transform that EDI to a common format. So if it's inbound, orders, for example, we can transform that inbound 850 to a common format that can then be used, to automatically go into your backend system. So here's an example. Customer sends in a purchase order, which is an inbound 850 EDI document, right? So within the B2B Gateway, it triggers a prepackaged set of EDI process mappings that you built ahead of time or, during your dev test mode in the Informatica Cloud Services to pick up the file from the connection. It parses it and validates the file. It can invoke a mapping process as part of the, processing of that file. It will parse it, it will validate it, it will transform it to a common format, in this case XML. If you want, we can invoke another process that then moves it to your backend system, which is going to typically be the case. We have Oracle or we have SAP or ON or Infor, any of those backend ERP packages. We want to invoke a process and have it routed to that backend system. It will also update the dashboards so that you can have tracking and tracing and you can see the events and notifications and potential errors. So that's the flow. And here in a few minutes, we'll have Thomas show you that interface in the B2B Gateway and how you can build a mapping and how you can set up a partner connection and that kind of stuff. The other thing that I think is very, very interesting, very unique, I don't know of any other products doing this in the marketplace, is that when you create that trading partner setup and that map that you've built in the cloud, what we do is we maintain the metadata and the configuration parameters and store them in the cloud for the design time, and at execution, all that we maintain in the cloud is the event data stored in the cloud. The actual execution itself happens directly between your outside partner and your backend system. That is unique. For 20 years now, there's been providers in the marketplace providing managed services where they say, outsource your EDI to us, and we'll build you the map and we'll set up the trading partner setup, but we maintain it for you. The downside with that is you lose control of your destiny. You're literally depending on somebody else to do the mapping and to get it right and to maintain that partner connection. If that partner says, I want to go from FTP to AS2, you have to put in a request and wait for somebody to go set up that AS2 connection. With this B2B Gateway, you don't have to do that. You can just log in. You can build a map. If it's doing a new transformation map, you can set up the AS2 connection yourself. What we do is we execute that transaction, the transformation, and it's directly between you and the partner. And that's the way this technology was designed and built, so that we're not actually storing your data in the cloud. That's real important if it's sensitive data. And we're seeing more and more now.
Would that be something like HIPAA data, something like
absolutely.
that, where it's
is that
applicable?
Absolutely. So it could be payroll data, it could be HIPAA data. Something to know is a lot of the major VANs, value-added networks in the marketplace, they don't want to touch sensitive data with a 10-foot pole. The largest VAN provider in the marketplace disclaims liability for any traffic on their network, period, and they won't touch HIPAA documents at all. So this is a way to do EDI, HIPAA documents, 837s, 835s, those kind of documents with your trading partners but to be able to map them and set up the partner connection in the cloud, and then you're doing a direct connection. Literally, the data is being transmitted and transformed directly between the two parties. And so the data files are sent directly between the sender and receiver. The transformation takes place at the agent behind your four walls, and the dashboards with statuses and errors are updated so that you and your partner can have visibility on those transactions and what's taking place. That is unique, this approach to doing this kind of a configuration and execution. I've not seen anything like it in the marketplace, and all the managed services providers out there are saying outsource it to us and let us take care of it. And then they usually ship it off to somebody, you know, in another country that's doing the mapping, and you end up losing days and days or a week or more waiting for them to build a map or make corrections to a map. So with that said, let's take a look at some of the actual screenshots, and then I'll hand it over to Thomas who will walk you through. But this is very recent. We've just released, Informatica's just released the procure-to-pay flows, the EDI documents just last month, and the order-to-cash, which are the customer-facing EDI flows, here in the next month and a half, so in the next few weeks. And here's a screenshot when we log in. The partner onboarding functionality, if you want to capture your trading partner's EDI ID and qualifier, you can enter them in the partner setup area. If you want to select the different message types that you're going to do, the different EDI document types, so 850s, 855s, 856s, 820, or you can say you select them all. I'm going to implement all of those document types for this particular partner. It's easy to do that. Informatica has been really good about listening to customers. So if you have some unique documents that you want to do that are not on the list here, we put them on our product roadmap to roll them out for you. The pre-built EDI mapping, we have built into the process to make it easy. It automatically transforms, inbound EDI to a common format that can then be used, for mapping to your backend system. The tracking and monitoring functionality is built and available and on demand, so you can easily see what the statuses are, if there's any errors with any document types. And here's a larger screenshot of what a pre-built workflow looks like, but Thomas is going to show you that. And here's what the mapping looks like. So on the left-hand side, just like most mappers, on the left-hand side you can have the EDI. On the right-hand side you can have your relational fields. You can, say, show me all the incoming fields by selecting incoming fields. You can say, show me all the fields, or do I want to see a subset? Do I want to search on a particular field? Maybe I'm looking for the BEG segment, and I want to just search on that. I can click on field mapping, and I can see the mapping for the field. Here's my ISA field, right, my BEG segment. So you get the idea. You can build your maps in the cloud. You can set up your partner connections in the cloud. You can do it yourself and maintain control of your destiny. So with that said, I'm going to introduce you to Thomas Bennett. He is the real-life customer success architect doing a real-life implementation and demo, and he's going to take you through and show it to you.
I wanted to start off with the B2B portal, the B2B Gateway portal. And to give you a little bit of context, so currently at a customer, they've been doing a lot of trading with different partners, and they decided that they wanted to standardize, and they went and spoke to a lot of their partners, and they came to realize that EDI was pretty much the common format between them all. And they decided this is going to make sense for us to keep everything in a common format. We can communicate back and forth easily. But then they realized, we're not EDI experts. So with the B2B Gateway, what we've done is, going off of what Dan was showing you, it gives the customer the ability to quickly onboard and get their processes going with their current partners, as well as any new partners that are coming on board. They can very easily just choose the EDI message format that they need, and it'll go ahead and just worry about getting it pushed into their backend system. They don't have to spend so much time with the translation of the EDI. And how we usually set this up is when you come into the B2B Gateway portal, you can go to your partners. In this case, we have Acme customer, and when you come into this screen, to get started, you set up your customer number. You can also set up the interchange ID based on production or test, and I'll show you where that comes into play in another step. One of the really important parts I want to show you is the qualifiers. So as you can see, it already handles a ton of the industry qualifiers. You've always got your ZZ mutual defined, but in this case, we're doing telephone companies. So you can just select the qualifier that relates to your instance. Then you can click next, and then from here you can choose the different B2B the different EDI formats that you want to process. But also, I want to point out a couple of things. One of them being you can choose the version that you want. So if you have one partner that's doing an 850 4010 and another one that's doing a 4030, all you have to do is just choose the 850, choose the version, and then back in the previous page where we set up the interchange by production or test, you can do that as well. Here you can tell it what environment that you're in as far as the life cycle, and it'll go ahead and look at it. The interchanges are different. It'll match them up. Down below, we also have the capability if we need to set any kind of security information qualifiers or authorization. And another piece I want to be able to point out is the fact that it will automatically generate a 997. In this case, for the 850 coming in, when the B2B gateway takes this 850, it will automatically generate a 997 to send back to the partner to say, hey, we've got your 850 and we're going to process it. So more of an, an acknowledgement message. In the next area, this is where we set up how we're going to be getting the EDI messages in. So this is still the inbound flow. In this scenario, we can do FTP, SFTP, local folder, or you can also use the Informatica MFT product as well. You tell it the source directory. In this case, we chose local directory. We tell it the source directory location. We can put in the file name, or you can put in a regular expression or a wildcard qualifier like *.edi to gather all the EDI files that are in the particular folder. Also, you have the capability to decide whether or not you want to delete the files after they've been picked up and processed. So this could come in a test scenario where you might want to replay the same EDI over and over again in order to process the same message for your testing. Finally, next, you do the mapping. So this is where you go and select into your Informatica Cloud org the mapping that's going to be processing the inbound. So this will, and we'll get to showing you what that mapping looks like. And then we also have the scheduling. And so there's a couple pieces I want to point out here. It's by default set up to run manually, which we'll see when I execute the map, when I execute the flow. You can also execute this by an external trigger via REST APIs, or you can schedule it using the scheduler built into the tool. And then finally, for your outbound flow, and in this test, or in this demo, we're going to be doing the 810. Again, we're going into a local folder, but one of the other things I want to point out is how you can have pre-built variables that you can use to qualify your file name. So for instance, you can use event ID, which is what we're using here. You can do the partner name, timestamp, or a combination of these for your output. You choose the mapping again in the Informatica Cloud. Then you can also have the capability of, if you need to, change the different separators that you might have in your EDI. And then finally, again, you can schedule it again via REST API manually or through the schedule. So what we're going to do, we're going to kick this off, and what I want to be able to show you is in the Informatica Cloud org, we'll go to the monitor. So we kick this off, the inbound flow. We can see that it kicks off at the job, and what happens is it dynamically generates an MCT that it will process the incoming EDI format. And what it does is the B2B Gateway takes this EDI and it puts it into the common format that you heard Dan talk about. And we'll take a look at that in the events section. So in this dashboard, we can see all the different running partners, the statuses of where they're at. In this case, we just ran this 850 in. We can see the event ID. We can see that it did send an acknowledgement, a 997. We can click on this and actually see the 997 that it generated. We can also click on the message file, and this will actually show you what the common format is. And I'm sure y'all are very aware of all the R segments and that go underneath all the higher level segments like your ST and BEG and what have you. Now, you can also look at the session log of the running job, or in the event that you might have an error, and I want to cover this real quick. So what happens in that situation? It also generates a report, and in this case, it actually identifies the transaction set that had the error, and it gives you some details on it. So you can quickly identify any issues in your EDI and be able to resolve them or go back to the trading partner and communicate what's going on. Then we're going to run this, we're going to run an inbound or an outbound flow. And in this situation, we're going to be generating the EDI. So we'll come back over here, and it already ran through. All right, let me double check. There we go, that hasn't come through yet. So it's currently in the process of building the EDI. We can see that it has two sections, two invoices in this 810. And let this finish. And now you can see how many different TS or ST segments that you had. And then I want to show you what the mapping looks like for the B2B Gateway when you're processing this. And as Dan had mentioned, you have to very little touch the EDI itself. So we have the B2B Gateway source, and it will be a target. And what we have also is what we call the X to R. So the X to R takes that common format, and it allows us to break that out into what you may be used to with your traditional Power Center mappings, where you have your maps. You can drag the ports to the other transformations. So in this case, we'll go through the input field selection, or I'm sorry, field mapping. And here you can drill down and choose all the segments that you want. So you can choose, whether you need a BEG, you need a currency, whatever is required for your particular process. Now, once you do these, once you select these, they become part of a port that you can drag out as any other transformation. You can go ahead and leave them in their current name, or you can also go through and name them to something that's more meaningful. Finally, you can drag those ports and put them into any transformation. In this case, I'm doing a filter because I'm trying to filter out the CO out of my REF segment. You can also drag these to a lookup where you can enrich the data coming up from your EDI and putting that into your backend system. I also join a couple of the segments together to flatten it out so that I can put that into my backend table. And with that, that's the current, the life cycle of the B2B process through Informatica's Cloud Gateway.
Excellent. So there were a few questions in the chat window, Thomas. We'll address a few of those, and then we'll go back to a couple summary slides I have. One of the questions was, is this different than our B2B data exchange? And so the answer is yes. This is the new offering called Cloud B2B Gateway. It's fairly cloud-based. I think we were able to show that this, you log into a browser, it's on demand, there's no purchasing of software, there's nothing to install, no provisioning of hardware. And by the way, that brings up a really good value point. Traditionally what I see with customers is they have an on-prem EDI translator they have to budget for and usually allocate hundreds of thousands of dollars for a replacement EDI translator, and they usually have to push it out, into 2017, 2018. This is different. This is available today. It's cloud-based, the subscription model. Prices are, very affordable. What Informatica has done is lowered the barrier to entry so that rather than planning a budget to replace an EDI translator and putting it out into the future somewhere, this is something, it doesn't even require an either-or decision. It's simply, okay, I can start onboarding some partners today using this product, and we do a fixed rate, which is kind of unique in the marketplace. We don't, I think, for a fee for as little as $3,250 a month, you can do unlimited partners, unlimited document types, unlimited number of maps. That's unique, and the starting point's really low. As opposed to buying a translator, provisioning the hardware for that new environment, and do I have a DR system in place for that? All those costs add up, and the barrier to entry is really high. What Informatica has done is by providing this new offering called Cloud B2B Gateway, it lowers that barrier to entry. So you could be doing EDI without having to provision, EDI software for an EDI translator and all the hardware and everything that goes along with that. So that answers that question. It is different than our B2B Data Exchange, which is still available, and we have a lot of customers purchasing B2B Data Exchange to do EDI, but that's software that you install on-prem or hosted in, Amazon or Azure.